How to get to the point in conversation. By the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing tools with you that will help save you time fluffing around in conversation, also increase and build a culture of psychological safety, and make you a far better leader and educator by increasing your clarity as well. I'm Chad Littlefield. Let's get to the point. So first I want to share about some world-renowned leaders that when you hear and think of the way that they navigate and get to the point in conversations, it'll blow your mind a little bit. I then want to share a really practical tool that you can use as an anchor in any meeting, any conversation to always get back to the point. Because the problem is that sometimes conversations wander. And so even if you get to the point of something, you go down a rabbit hole and you got to get back to the point. And so I'll give you a tool that will serve as an anchor that no matter where you are in conversation, no matter how long you've worked with a group, no matter how long you've been in conversation, you can get back to the point using this tool. And then I want to combine wisdom from two of my mentors that entered one each side of my brain and formed a absolutely brilliant strategy to actually cut a conversation in half and separate out the fluff from the heart of the matter. Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, and Rosa Parks. Can you imagine any of these four leaders, figures, historical beings walking into a room and saying, "Hey, how was your weekend?" I'm sure they probably did it, right? I'm sure they probably chatted about, stuff, the superfluous chit chat of life. But these are people, and some of the best, most renowned leaders are masters of getting to the heart of what matters. And here's their secret. They had such a strong and compelling and clear purpose and intention that it rang through and emanated from everything they said and did. If you want to elevate your ability to get to the heart of the matter, be as intentional and purposeful as them. Priya Parker says, meet for purpose, not for time. How often are you in a conversation and you're not exactly sure why until you're like halfway through it or something? Meeting for purpose, not for time, and stating your intention always in the first few minutes of a conversation is your anchor. It's like you tossing an anchor to the point, to what you want to get done, what you want to discuss, or what you want to solve or unpack or whatever else. It's the anchor. And so anytime you go off path, you can come back to it. The second tool that my once upon a time mentor, now business partner, Will Wise shared with me is this idea that this metaphor of steering into the curve. Now he didn't invent this metaphor. And if you have never gotten in a car accident, it's a little bit hard to relate to. Or if you've never been skidding around off an exit ramp, it's a little bit hard to relate to. But imagine that you're going off an exit ramp and your tires lose friction and you start sliding. The best thing you can possibly do in that tense moment is actually steer into the curve, meaning turn the wheel the way that looks like it's going to make you crash harder and worse. And that's actually the way to get out of that slide. Now, before you fully implement that, maybe Google another video about extreme driving to check that. The idea here is the metaphor of if you want to get to the heart of the matter, you've got to steer into it. So often I see conversations or I hear secondhand or even thirdhand about a conversation of he said, she said, whatever, where people are trying to get to the heart of the matter in this roundabout way. And you just can't. Like it leads to passive aggressive communication almost every time. And so cutting to the heart of the matter, what I would invite you to do is point out the elephant in the room. In fact, one of my mentors, Eric Tyler, who wrote a book called The Best Advice So Far, and so I do think this is kind of the best advice so far. He said that once you say something, half the power leaves it. Or once you say something, half the awkwardness leaves it. And I think that's true and valuable to keep in mind when you're trying to get to the heart of the matter. Because oftentimes we feel like, ooh, like I can't get to the point because it's too raw, there's too much conflict embedded in it. We have some fear around just cutting straight to it, of saying this is what we need to talk about right now. And yet oftentimes, as soon as we say it, as soon as we speak it out, half the power leaves it right there, and then it becomes a conversation. You can talk about it. The longer that you try to dance around a topic to try to get to this or to try to hint at, right? So let's make this concrete with an example. Let's say you have an employee who is just not performing well. They're not doing a good job. Either you can compliment their work and point out the good things that they do, or you can sit them down and say, hey, my expectation is actually that this role is here. This is going to maybe be an uncomfortable conversation, but actually totally not meeting expectations right now. However, and this is where intention comes in as an anchor. However, I would really love to work with you to meet those expectations if you're willing, if you're interested. So do you see how we pointed out something that was really hard? We ripped a Band-Aid off. But we also came back around and said, I want to be on your team though. Will you be on my team? And that's the intention part of this. When your intention includes the needs of others and actually benefits other people, you can rip as many Band-Aids as you want off if your intentions are to uplift that person. Now, if you want to get to the heart of the matter and your intention is to actually rip somebody down, then you can't, or there's no way to hide that or fluff that. Like, giving feedback in the sandwich format of I give good feedback and then bad feedback and then good feedback. Not really that useful. Now, everything I've shared up to this point is useful, but what I'm about to share with you is is it? It's the golden gem, it's the nugget, it's what separates really great facilitators from okay facilitators. It is the ability to recognize that there is always something happening while something is happening, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but track with me for a minute. So in a conversation, there's two levels that are happening. Up here, there's content. There's what you're actually saying. There's the words that are being said, the sentences that are being strung together. And then all the while that conversation's going on, there's something happening. And I would call that process. And process is literally everything else. It's all the music behind the words, it's the unspoken emotions, it's the unsaid thoughts, it's the tension or dynamic between these two people, it's the past comment that somebody said that somebody's still holding a grudge against, right? All team dynamics, right? It's the fact that only men are speaking in a meeting and there's no opportunity for anybody else to speak, or only people at the top of the hierarchy are speaking and there's no invitation for the quieter folks or the folks further down on the rung, right? All those dynamics, that's process. And if you want to get to the point in conversation, become a master at oscillating between the two. Go down to process, bring it, whatever is happening or whatever you're noticing, up into the content and actually talk about it. So take a break from the content of your meeting to bring process and say, hey, everybody, this is happening right now. What do we want to do about it? Or you can make a decision. Hey, this is happening right now. I'm recognizing that only 3 out of 10 of you are really contributing, and we're not leaving much space, and the 3 of us aren't leaving much space for the 7 of you to contribute. And so I'd actually love to take 5 minutes to fully pause and write down our thoughts about this, and then I'd love to hear the voices that haven't been heard so far. Right, so you duck down into process, you bring it up, and you acknowledge and steer right into that curve, right into that dynamic. And so you're oscillating between content and process. If you want to deep dive in content and process, in the last chapter of Ask Powerful Questions, me and Will's book, we unpack some advanced tools on how to create conversations that matter. This last chapter could be a book of its own. It's so densely rich with really practical tools to help your gatherings be so much better. I'm Chad Littlefield. Have an awesome day.